Okay. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. We are from group number 6. Today, our presentation is about a special topic in public law. Yes, yes, yes. The third party effect on human rights to Taiwanese membership, presented by our group. So, my name is Matthew.
My name is Justin. My name is Kenji.
And my name is Aldo.
Okay, you must, written. Your name must be written.
Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
well,
Okay, thank you.
Oh, okay. Next. Oh, okay. Okay, so the first slide we're gonna talk about is do human rights only protect against the state? Yes. So let's begin by looking at the core question. Are human rights protection only meant to restrict government power or do they also apply to private actors? Traditionally, human rights protection were understood in a very limited way under the classic view. Yes. The Constitution protects individually, vertically, meaning from the power of the government, not horizontally, between private individuals. So, for example, if the government tries to censor speech or imprison someone unfairly, then constitutional rights apply. But if a private employer treats a worker unfairly, traditionally this would fall under private law like contract law or employment law rather than constitutional rights. However, in modern society, we see a huge shift between big corporations, social media platforms, labor unions, and tech giants actually have the power to shape and sometimes violate human rights just as much or even more than governments can. This changed the nature of oppression. It's no longer only the state that can restrict rights. Private entities can also limit freedoms to or create social situations. So the big modern question becomes if a private contract restricts human rights, for example, discrimination or banning marriage for employees, should constitutional protection intervene? This question invite us to rethink the traditional boundaries of human rights. Next. Okay, so the next slide is three major theoretical schools. So there are three. Now we're gonna talk about it. The first is the node effect theory. According to this view, the constitutional never touch private relationships, contracts, marriage, employment. All of these fall under private law. If someone signs a contract voluntarily, even if it restricts certain rights, the Constitution stays out of the way. Under this theory, private autonomy is prioritized. Individuals are free to make private agreement without conditional interference. The second is direct effect theory. This is the opposite extreme. Here, the Constitution is supreme over all relationships. If a private contract violates constitutional rights, it is automatically void. So, for example, if a company makes a rule that violates freedom of speech or discriminates against certain individuals, then the constitutional could strike that contract down, just as if it were a government rule. However, critics argue that this approach destroys the autonomy of a potential constitutional case, which can make private legal relationship inflexible and overly regulated. Then we have the middle position, the indirect effect theory, which is also the most widely accepted approach today. This theory says that conditional values to influence private relationships, but indirectly they enter private law through general legal principles such as public order, good morals, and good faith principle, rather than directly invalidating contracts using constitutional language. Courts use underlying constitutional values to guide interpretation. This approach provides balance with preserving private autonomy. Next. The slide number 4 is Effective state action doctrine. Now let's look at the American concept of the state action doctrine. In the United States, the Constitution, especially in the 14th Amendment, restrain government action on private individuals. At first glance, this seems similar to the no-effect theory. However, in the US, system includes important exceptions that make certain private action count as government action. The first is called the state action fiction. Some private actions are treated as if they are an action of the state, meaning that if a private entity performs something so closely connected to the state responsibilities, they trigger constitutional review. The second is public function. If a private company performs a traditional function of government, such as managing a company town or running a shopping center that serves like a public space, that is judicial enforcement. If a court enforces a private discriminatory concept that enforcement become an act of the state, a famous example is Shelby v. Kramer, where courts refuse to enforce racially discriminatory property contracts. Lastly, we have government entanglement. If the state singularly funds or supports a private actor, then the action of the private actor may be considered state action.
Itu udah salah satu hal yang bahas pada itu. Kayak sih deket banget ya sama dia. Lagi bareng. Itu selalu dia mau sendiri. Dan gue gak suka banget. Kok gue gosipin orang di video sih? Anjir.
Okay, so I'm gonna talk about the special power relation. So the definition of the special power relation, or special power relation is a special relation formed between the state and the individuals based on specific status like civil servants, military, students, and prisoners. So there is two theory about these special power relations, like traditional theory, or can be called as the black hole theory. So this this relationship, the state can restrict rights without legal basis, and individuals cannot sue for relief. And the second one is modern theory, or can be called as rule of law principle. So it has two types, like legal reservation, restriction on fundamental rights must still have a statutory basis, and judicial review, like individuals are allowed to file administrative lawsuits when their rights are violated. Thanks. So this is the prisoners and civil servants. So even in jail, they still have human dignity, and only physical freedom is taken away, and the other rights like communication and going to court cannot be taken away without good reasons. So civil servants have three things like political neutrality. They cannot do political activities freely on or off duty to keep the government fair. And the second, no moonlighting. They cannot take side jobs to avoid conflict of interest. And the last is labor rights. They cannot strike because it affects the public, but they can still form or join associations. Thanks. Okay, so we have different topic here. So this is the United Nations Charter Article 4, the membership criteria. So we have two criteria here. So the number one is substantive requirements. It has peace loving states, acceptance of the obligation contained in the charter, able and willing to carry out these obligations. So the second is procedural requirement. It's recommendation by the Security Council, subject to the P5 veto, and the decision by the General Assembly.
next slide, we have the next slide. We have the 1955 turning point from conditional to universal. So we have the stagnation period. It starts from 1945 all the way to 1955. Membership rarely expanded because the US and USSR kept vetoing each other's allies, and many newly independent states were blocked even if they met Article 4 requirements. And then UN membership didn't match the reality of decolonization too. And during 1955, we have what's so-called as package deal. It is a political compromise to end the 10-year deadlock. Both blocs agreed to admit 16 states together in one vote, and each side got some of its preferred candidates. Next. Okay. In the next slide, we have Japan's admission to the UN. This happened during 1956, and you have quite a few years. We have obstacles. The USSR vetoed Japan 3 times, claiming Japan wasn't fully peace-loving and doubting whether wartime militarism was truly gone. And then here, Japan faced an internal debate. Article 9 of the Peace Constitution forbids war and military force. UN membership requires cooperation with collective security actions, sometimes involving armed forces too. This created a tension between Japan's pacifism and the UN security system. And the resolution for this is, in a diplomatic way, Japan and the USSR signed the 1956 Joint Declaration restoring relations. The USSR then dropped its veto, and from the legal perspective, Japan interpreted Article 9 to permit self-defense forces, so-called SDF, allowing participation in UN obligations without violating the Constitution. So what is the outcome from all this? The outcome is, during 1956, Japan was finally admitted as the 18th member of the UN. Next. Now we have the principle of universality and divided nations. As we can see the slide here, we have a picture of West German and South and North Korea. And the practice of universality during the post-year of 1955, the UN covers almost all nations globally. And for the microstates, we have Nauru, Tuvalu, with the populations approximately in the 10,000s, were admitted to. And for the divided nations, we have East and also West Germany and North or South Korea were admitted simultaneously or sequentially. And for the summary is, we get population size, territory size, or the status of being a divided nation are no longer valid grounds for rejection in international practice. Next.
Yeah. Okay, so for the analysis of Taiwan's failed attempts. So, okay, there's 2 of them. First one is strategic errors, and the past focus on competing for the representation of China. The Han and the thief cannot exist, and the later claims of 2 Chinas or 1 China, 1 Taiwan failed to challenge the PRC status under UN resolution. Okay. Okay, the second one is identity confusion. Attempting to return as the Republic of China, ROC, is viewed as solving the who represents China issue, not a new member admission issue. And the legal arguments for Taiwan's admission, say there's 2 of them. The first one is objective criteria. And so Taiwan possesses a defined territory, a permanent population, government and the capacity to enter into relations with other states, for example, like Montevideo Convention, as the world's 17th largest economy, it fits the definition of of a state. And the second one is application of universality. Since the UN pursue universality, 23 million Taiwanese should not be excluded. And the comparison is to divide nations, for example, like Germany and Korea, were admitted, and Taiwan should not be an exception. And the last one is the conclusion, the path forward for Taiwan. So the first one is abandon old thinking, stop debating ROC representation or claiming sovereignty over the mainland. And the second one is new application, must apply under the Charter Article 4 as a new sovereign independent state, unrelated to China, for example, like under the name Taiwan. And this is not just a naming issue, but also a confirmation of Taiwan's status as a subject of international law. Yeah, and for the summary, as you can see, there's internal and the external. The internal one is constitutional law, and it is used by the third party effect and breaking special power relations to extend the safety net of human rights to every corner of society. And the external one is international law. It's citing the principle of universality to assert Taiwan's right to the principle in the international community as an independent entity. Yeah, and thank you for listening. And we have a Q&A here. So number one is, what is the third party effect of human rights? I've mentioned this before.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wow, so great presentation. Okay. So good point.
Guys, jawab guys. Ini
That's
pertanyaan.
right. Okay, who will answer? Okay, yes. Welcome.
So the third party effect of human rights, it means that human rights can affect relationships between private individuals or companies, not just between people and the government.
Kamu jawab.
Very earnest. Delightful. Okay. Very
Yes.
Next.
Okay. And number two, why isn't the U.S. Constitution applied directly to private companies? Anyone?
Me.
Okay.
Because the Constitution limits government actions, not private actors. This is the state action doctrine.
Yeah. Very nice.
Very good. On point. Okay, and the last one is, what is the difference between direct and indirect third-party effects? Good question. Everyone? Yes. Very good question.
Yes, precisely. Yeah, who answer? Yes.
Okay.
So for the direct, it means that the human rights apply directly to private parties. Meanwhile, indirect, it means that human rights influence other laws like contract or labor law, which are then applied to private parties.
Yeah. Very nice.
Oh, nice question. Nice answer. Okay.
Cool question. Okay, wonderful.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Thanks for
thank you.
listening.
And we still have 3 minutes. Actually, I directly ask you very important question. Okay, okay. I don't use the microphone. Okay, speak loud. Okay. You say that Taiwan is an external aspect about the domestic constitutional law, and there is an external aspect about international law. Okay, so it's very good point for Taiwan. Okay, so how to combine, how to collaborate these two aspects, and we can have a bright forward future because of your suggestion. Because we are recording, okay? So you're Indonesian, okay? Citizen. You are representative of international citizen. And when you give us suggestions, you must help us, okay? To achieve these two aspects for Taiwan, okay? Now, please.
So the man is like, how do we combine it to result in a better? So how do we combine it?
Especially universality principle.
Oh,
Okay. It's very important question. Okay, next one. Yes, yes. Especially this one, external
How to combine external
and
and
internal. How to combine and help us, support us to achieve.
Besok kayak itu.
okay. So
Yes,
it's for Taiwan, right?
yes.
In Taiwan, Taiwan needs to build a strong rights protection framework by linking internal and external sources. Internally, Taiwan uses the third-party right to push constitutional values into private relationships, ensuring rights are respected not only by the government but also within society too. And externally, Taiwan relies on the principle of universality, which allows it to adopt and cite international human rights norms even without formal UN membership. And altogether, these two levels create a consistent legal foundation that aligns Taiwan's constitutional principles with global human rights standards.
Okay, thank you for your wonderful answering. So first, according to the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, Article 1, we must show our political status determination by ourselves. For example, the voting, the referendum is very important. So now we are focused on direct sovereignty to our government. Okay, that's first one. And about the external one, we must show our independent willing, for example, proclaim our declaration to international society. Okay? So we must apply the Article 4 to join United Nations. Okay? When that time comes, Indonesian government must support it. Okay? That's great. Not Indonesia, but in Vietnam, okay, but any country in the world, okay, maybe 193 countries, okay, please support Taiwan. Give us a vote. That's very important. Okay? That's your national recognition to Taiwan. It's very important. Okay. Very good. Wonderful presentation. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you very much.